first question I had when I was pregnant was, how soon did you start riding after the birth? I was thinking, as soon as my midwife clears me, I am back in that saddle. And the reality was is I did not actually get back to riding until like 7 or 8 months postpartum. It was just way later than I had planned. And that was for several reasons. One of which was we had some feeding challenges, some breastfeeding challenges that we had to work through. It took several weeks and months to just kind of get to a place where I didn't feel like I was just constantly nursing all the time, and to where I felt like I could take a break and actually enjoy that time and feel like my daughter wasn't upset. My daughter was also and is also the kind of kid that she wants to be with me, she wants to be on me. And so I knew that if even if my husband was holding her and doing a great job, if she wasn't happy, like I was not going to enjoy my time in the saddle at all. So I ended up not riding until, like I said, 7 or 8 months postpartum. And at that point, I actually was doing lessons once a week because I just felt like my body was so in a different space and recovering and all of that, that I really wanted the support of and structure of a lesson to kind of help me get reoriented. I also had put fame in training because I knew pretty soon after, like, oh, this is going to be different than I planned. I need to get some support for my horse. And so I was able to put him in some full-time training postpartum, which was also hugely helpful. So grateful that I could do that. And so I also wanted to just kind of get reoriented to what he was learning so that we could be on the same page. As far as how often I ride, so that was the other question I had when I was pregnant is, okay, so do you still get to ride the same amount or as long, or what does that riding time look like now? And that has changed a lot. My daughter's going to be 3 next month. So, gosh, 3. um, so I would say, of course, when she was really little, I wasn't riding at all. And then as she got to be an older infant, I was doing the lesson once a week. I was trying to squeeze in an arena ride in addition to that, so maybe 2 times a week. And then when she got to be about a year old was when I first did a trail ride. I hadn't done a trail ride in over a year. So I did a short trail ride, and I would say the best, honestly, the most often that I've been in the saddle has been 3 times a week since I've become a mom. And when I was, pre-baby, that was kind of my default, was riding 3 times a week. So that has been an adjustment for sure. And then there's some weeks where I don't ride at all. It just doesn't work out between figuring out childcare to combined with, oh, it's raining and all the trails are closed, or by the time I can actually get out there, I'm just exhausted, and the idea of riding just doesn't sound fun. So we just hang out and he eats grass and my daughter picks dandelions. So there's a lot of that too. Now I know other women that are moms that ride much more than that, and it hasn't been as much of a challenge for them. So, again, this is just my situation and how things have panned out for me. How do you manage having a baby at the barn? This was another big question I had is, okay, paint me the picture. Like, you're going out to the barn with your kid. Like, what does this look like? And again, of course, it depends on their age. So when my daughter was really little, an infant, and I could baby wear her comfortably, a lot of the stuff I was doing with my horse was on the ground. So I was either just pulling him out and turning him out, or he was grazing, or we were doing some obstacle courses that are on the property where I board, or I was doing round pen stuff and I was wearing my daughter while I was on the ground. Then, as she got older, I also started using a back carrier because it just got to be too heavy and uncomfortable having her in front. And I will try to remember to link the carrier that I used. It's called an Onbunimo, that she really liked. That was a back carrier. Then I got to a point where she would stay in the stroller. Like, my daughter's never been it's so funny. I became a parent and you see all these parents having these lovely stroller walks and going for these car rides. My daughter hates the car, or she likes it more now. Hated the car forever. Like, would cry and scream. It was miserable. Still is not great about the stroller, like doesn't love the stroller, but she will ride in the stroller more. So yeah, anyway. So finally got to a place where she would stay in the stroller, I'd give her a snack, and I'd let her watch a show. And I'd park the stroller at the edge of the arena, and then I could do like a short, maybe 20, 30-minute ride before I felt like she would start getting a little bit fussy and wanting out. Ideal is, my husband comes out to the ranch and watches her, or she stays at home with daddy, or I do have some family close by and occasionally they're available. The other options with trail riding have been I will hook up my trailer, load my horse, and my daughter's in the car with me, and then I will meet my husband at the trailhead and he will either like hike with her or play with her while I do a short ride. I have to go into it knowing that sometimes I don't get to ride that day. Even if everything else is set up right, I've got enough time, the weather is working out, and maybe my daughter's just having a hard day and it doesn't work out for me to actually do the ride with the time that I have. And so sometimes that happens. And so I've had to really work at being flexible and just appreciating what I can get. And there's definitely times where I'm extremely frustrated that I feel like, I can't get all the moving parts of my life to synchronize. But that's kind of a big part of parenting too. Did your feelings about riding change after having a baby? Yes. And not in the way I thought. So I went through a huge section of time postpartum of several months where I was very aware of my mortality. Like suddenly, oh my gosh, I have this precious little person. I cannot die, like ever. Like I just need to live forever so that I can be there to take care of her. and and so anything that potentially jeopardized my safety, I was really questioning. And I'm so glad that I did not make any permanent decisions in that space. And I would say, yeah, you've got an animal. I would say if you have the ability financially and whatever else wise to not make any big decisions when you're postpartum, try to push that horizon out as much as you can, because there's so much that we go through in terms of an identity shift and reorienting to who we are, and hormones, like hormones, just period, end of story, hormones. So I'm so grateful that I got out the other end of it and I hadn't made any permanent decisions. I realized I still really loved riding. Fame is a great horse and I wanted him in my life, and I felt like I could make this work, and I wanted to try to make everything work out. And things so far have worked out, and I'm super grateful. But that questioning period was very real for me. And I know it's real for a lot of women. So if it happens to you, it's normal. Try to write it out and see where you land at the end of it. It's also normal. I know women who have made significant changes to how they ride, which horses they ride, how they do their horse business if they're a professional equestrian of some kind, because they became a mom and their priorities shifted. And that's great too. I do want to say that I have, with the investment that I was able to make in FAME's training and into lessons, that I actually have a better seat. Don't want to shake the table. I actually have a better seat now than I did pre-baby. And that is because of some recommendations that I am going to make, one of which is a pelvic health specialist. If you live in the United States, this is not a default care postpartum, and it should be. Can't speak for the rest of the world. Let me know in the comments. But it has been such an important part of my body recovering, and I've learned so much about being aware of my muscles in this area, my diaphragm, my pelvic floor, getting a strong core again without tightness, breathing, like just so many things. And I actually attribute being more balanced and centered and aligned now, in part because of the work that I did with my pelvic health specialist. It was something I did have to pay out of pocket for. to an extent. And it depends on your insurance. And again, it might be something that you'll probably have to look into on your own, but absolutely worth it. And I would highly recommend seeking out, if you are pregnant, seeking out a pelvic health specialist now to help you, because it will help with the birth as well. And then, of course, if you're postpartum, even if you're way postpartum and still having some challenges, there's help that can be found. So that was huge. Other thing I would have done differently is I did not get my postpartum support for my horse lined up in enough time. I would say like by 30 weeks, I would have lined up the people that were going to help turn him out. I figured out how I was going to pay them and all that kind of stuff, because my daughter came 2 weeks early, which she was still full term, but I was literally like texting, trying to nurse the baby, slept like 2 hours, and coordinating like, could you please turn my horse out, and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just one less thing to have on your plate when you've got so much on your plate with a baby, is planning for a plan B, because hopefully the birth and baby's healthy and everything works out like you plan, but sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, and you find that you need someone to help you take care of your horse, you need that support, you need someone to turn him out or give him medications or extra feed or whatever, line up that help in advance. That is what I'm going to say about that. The other thing I would say that I have become very aware of now is I do wish my boarding facility was closer to where I lived. And I'm actually looking at other boarding facilities now in the hopes of maybe finding something a little bit closer, because I think it will give me more riding time. Time is so precious as a mom, and especially I'm also working, so trying to figure all of that out. And yeah, if you have an option where, of course, your horse is well cared for, either way, I would give up some of the amenities that I have at my current facility to be able to cut my commute to my horse down like in half. I would absolutely make that trade. Because at the end of the day, I can't tell you how many times either the window of availability that my husband had, or maybe a family member had to care for my daughter for me so that I could go ride, just wasn't big enough because of the commute that I have to get to my horse. So everyone's situation is different. Of course, your horse's needs are going to be paramount as far as the facility you choose. But I absolutely would favor a closer facility over some niceties if my horse is well cared for. I did end up needing to get new boots and like super supportive nursing bras and nursing shirts, which you have to get anyway if you're nursing as a mom postpartum. But the boots, I was like, oh man, I really liked the boots that I had, but my feet grew. Like even I had super swollen feet when I was pregnant, but then even after the fact, I'm like a half size bigger than I was. So yeah, there's that. I think moms, we deal with feeling deprived too, right? We're busy caring for everybody else, and we want to be able to take care of ourselves, and sometimes it just feels impossible. But trying to be flexible and really having grace with yourself and being patient and recognizing that it is a limited time in life, even though there have been many days where I feel like the hard parts will never end. They do end. You do move into a new phase. You do move into a new season. And I've just accepted this is not the time in my life where I'm going to be blasting my equestrian goals. And it's okay, because I'm, laying a foundation for my daughter that she'll have for the rest of her life and taking care of her. But it is something that sometimes I do grieve or feel guilty about, that I'm not able to do more of, or I have, FOMO because my friends are doing a camp out or a ride and it just doesn't work out for me to participate. So it's hard. And juggling the small children and the responsibility of a horse is also really hard. That being said, I don't regret having my daughter in the least. I never have. I feel very grateful that I've always just felt very committed about my decision to become a mom. And I am grateful that I have fame in my life. It is not lost on me what a blessing it is to be having these problems. And I do want to offer some encouragement if you find yourself in a position where this is just not the time to do the horse thing and the baby thing. And, of course, your family takes priority. I ride with some really wonderful women who made the same choice. And they said, you know what, this is not the time for me to have horses. And, not to minimize the heartbreak there, but they are now, later in life, their kids are a little bit older and they're now getting to pursue more of their horse dreams, and they are having a fantastic time, and they have wonderful horses, and they're getting to do all kinds of fun campouts and trail rides and clinics and travel and cool stuff with their horse that they wouldn't have been able to do earlier. So there is always that as well. If you have questions that I did not answer in this rambling chaos of a video, feel free to ask down below. If you are another mom in the trenches trying to figure this out, trying to juggle and navigate, and you just want to say hi. And if you have encouragement, if you're a mom that is maybe further along with older kids and you remember the season of life and you want to leave some encouragement for some other young moms down in the comments, that is always welcome as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it won't be as much time for the next video. I have some ideas. It's just honestly a matter of having the time to do it all. But I appreciate you watching. It was great to see you if you are a fan of the channel, and hopefully I'll have some more content for you in 2025. But thanks again, and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.